It's a story that has shaken all of us, an Indian student battling for life in the United States. It forced us to shake up the system. NCP working president Supriya Sule seeking intervention of the External Affairs Ministry, demanding that the case be treated on priority. She engaged with the family and we were all hopeful that there would be solution. And it did arrive few hours later when Nilam's father got a call for a visa appointment which is going to take place tomorrow morning. The father just wants to travel to California to meet his daughter, his only daughter who is on ventilator support post a hit-and-run case. Ladies and gentlemen, it has actually shaken all of us. So, on the show tonight, we'll be speaking to Supriya Sule, the family, and several other students in United States to share their concerns as we build up this campaign for Nilam Shinde. We have Supriya Sule, Member of Parliament of NCP, joining us. We also have Tanaji Shinde and Sanjay Kadam, Nilam's father and uncle, joining us. Ms. Sule, first of all, as a Member of Parliament, you say that this is your duty, but your concerns have yielded results in which we can see Tanaji Shinde and Sanjay Kadam, who are now heading to Mumbai for that very important visa interview. Your thoughts and what would you like to tell the family?
Well, I would first like to put it on record that it was Bala Saheb Patil from Karad who brought this to my notice. So actually, the entire credit goes to him. I would not like to take, this is not something about taking credit. I feel the pain for the family. It's been a very, very difficult situation for all of us. It was completely helplessness. And when it was brought to my notice, I would leave all politics aside. And I actually want to show gratitude towards the MEA, the Ministry of External Affairs, and the US Embassy in Mumbai, who have really helped us. So these are the two people I'm eternally grateful to for stepping in. And this is not the first time MEA has helped us. There have been many, many occasions when families or children have needed attention and the Ministry of External Affairs has gone out of his way and helped them. So I'm eternally grateful to them. I'm eternally grateful to Bala Saheb Patil from Karad who brought it to my notice and to the US Embassy. But I have a humble request to all the people who can help them that we need to expedite this visa at super speed and get him on a flight immediately. If not tomorrow, it should have been yesterday.
Tanaji Shinde and Sanjay Kadam, ये बहुत ही मुश्किल की घड़ी है आपके परिवार के लिए और इस घड़ी में पूरा हिंदुस्तान आपके साथ खड़ा है, हम आपके साथ खड़े हैं क्योंकि अभी आपको अपनी बेटी के पास जाना बहुत ज़रूरी है। जब आप देखते हैं कि सब लोग आपके साथ सांत्वना दिखा रहा है तो आप क्या सोच रहे हैं?
ये देखकर मुझे तो मतलब पहले बार मतलब विश्वास नहीं हुआ कि मतलब इतने हेल्प मिल रहे करके। बहुत ज्यादा हेल्प मिले हमें सभी तरफ से। मतलब ताइन की तरफ से तो ताइन ने हमें कॉल भी किया था सुबह दोपहर को। उन्होंने मतलब ट्वीट वगैरह सब करके बहुत ज्यादा हेल्प किए। हमारे यहाँ के बाला साहब पाटिल है, उन्होंने तो सबसे पहले हम उनके पास ही गए थे, बाला साहब पाटिल के पास ही। वही हमारे यहाँ के MLA थे उसकी वजह से। और उसके बाद ही हम फॉलोअप में मतलब सभी अभी CM साहब भी हेल्प बहुत कर रहे हैं, उन्होंने भी मतलब बहुत हेल्प किया अभी तक।
जी, तानाजी शिंदे जी, मैं आपसे क्या बोलूं, बस यही कि आपको भगवान हिम्मत दे कि आपको जल्दी से वीज़ा मिले और आप अपनी बेटी के पास जा सकें।
धन्यवाद।
धन्यवाद।
तो क्या
काही ना काही
असं म्हणू नका तानाजी भाऊ, तुमच्या लेकीचा आम्हाला सार्थ अभिमान आहे। तुमची लेक खूप धैर्यशील आहे, कर्तृत्ववान आहे। आम्हाला खूप तिचा अभिमान आहे आणि तुमचा देखील की तुम्ही तुमच्या मुलीला इतकं लांब विश्वासाच्या नात्याने पाठवलं आणि तिने एवढं कर्तृत्व दाखवलं। तुम्हाला मी मानाचा मुजरा करते आणि तुमच्या लेकीला पण करते आणि ती नक्की बरी होईल, तुम्ही काळजी करू नका। ती बरी होणार आहे, आपण तिला बरी करणार आहोत आणि आपणला पांडुरंग आपण प्रार्थना करू आणि डॉक्टर्स पण आपल्याला करतील सगळी मदत।
हाजी ताई। धन्यवाद ताई, तुमचा खूप जास्त म्हणजे आम्हाला
अरे
धीर वाटला
धन्यवाद.
तुमचा ऐकून कॉल.
अरे ताई पण म्हणतात आणि धन्यवाद पण म्हणतात. बहिणीचे कोण आभार मानतं काय? बहीण कशाला असते मग? सगळं चांगलं होणार.
तानाजी शिंदे जी, बेटी के बारे में कब पता चला? नीलम के बारे में कब पता चला आपको?
16 तारीख को,
उसके दोस्त उसके
16
साथ हैं?
फेब्रुवरी।
दोस्तों, उनको थोड़ा हिंदी बोलने में परेशानी आ रही है मैम.
जी, आप ही बोल
आप बोलिए. आप मारिया जी, आप उनके वो लड़के को पूछिए, वो भाई बता देगा उनको.
हाँ,
इतना
संजय
हिंदी
कदम आप
नहीं
ही
आता.
बता दीजिए जी.
हाँ, मैं संजय कदम जी का लड़का हूँ, मतलब उसके मामा का लड़का हूँ मैं.
जी.
गौरव कदम. मैं
जी.
उनके साथ जाने वाला हूँ यूएस को.
हाँ.
हम दोनों ही जाने वाले हैं. ऐसा है. हाँ, तो 16 तारीख को हमें पता चला. 16 तारीख को मॉर्निंग को उसकी जो फ्रेंड है उसने हमें बताया जो कुछ होगा है वहां पे. तो ऐसा हुआ. और 14 तारीख को यूएस टाइम के अनुसार रात शाम के 6:45 उसका एक्सीडेंट हो गया वहां पे.
और ये हिट एंड रन केस है जिसमें जिन्होंने किया है, जो कल्पेबल हैं, उनका अरेस्ट हो चुका है. लेकिन
यस मैम.
लेकिन नीलम की खुद की तबीयत अभी ठीक नहीं है.
हाँ जी.
नीलम से आखिरी बात कब बात हुई थी?
12 तारीख को हुई थी मैम. 12 तारीख को मतलब वो हर रोज डेली कॉल करती थी. उसके टाइमिंग के अनुसार वो डेली कॉल करती थी वहां से पूछताछ की. मतलब क्योंकि उसको पिताजी के उनके बहुत ज्यादा ये रहती थी, मतलब तो केयर रहती थी उसके. और ये तो वो हर रोज कॉल करती थी उनको कैसे है क्या, क्योंकि उसकी माँ अगले मतलब पिछले साल ही गुजर गई. उसको ब्रेन कैंसर हुआ था. उसको वो अभी 1 साल ही नहीं हुआ, इसी महीने 1 साल हो गया उसको गुजर के, माँ को, मतलब मेरे आत्या को. और तो उसमें ही थी वो शॉक में कि ये अकेले रहते हैं उसके पिताजी. अभी घर में कोई नहीं है यहाँ पे. उनका जो बेटा है वो पुणे में रहता है, वो वहाँ पे एजुकेशन मतलब ये करता है, जॉब करता है. ऐसा है. तो वो हर रोज कॉल करके पूछती थी इनको सब बारे में, मतलब केयर करती ऐसा.
लेकिन परिवार के लिए तो उसने बहुत नाम कमाया, जाकर के अमेरिका में पढ़ाई कर रही है.
हाँ जी, बहुत ज्यादा, बहुत नाम कमाया उसने. और वो बहुत टैलेंटेड भी है, मतलब बहुत उसने मतलब पहले से स्कॉलरशिप में पढ़ाई की है बहुत ज्यादा. मतलब हम उसके ही इंस्पायर रहते थे. मैं उसका छोटा भाई है ना, इसलिए मुझे मालूम है. उसको ही हम इंस्पायर होके हमने भी पढ़ाई किया सब, मतलब इस लेवल पे.
Ms. Sule, it raises the larger question also of how tiring this entire process is. That it requires an intervention at your level for entire process to be expedited. I mean, this is one would say it's ruthless.
मेरे ख्याल से इससे हम सबको सीखना पड़ेगा और हमारी सबकी कोशिश रहेगी कि एक उदाहरण बनाना चाहिए कि किसी भी बच्चा, कोई भी बच्चा, भले अमेरिका दुनिया का कोई भी बच्चा भारत में आए या भारतीय बच्चा कोई परदेश जाए और किसी भी उस हमारे बच्चे को या कोई सीनियर सिटीजन कोई भी हो, उसको अगर मदद लगे तो 24 घंटे के अंदर एक स्पेशल अरेंजमेंट या अग्रीमेंट सरकार ने करना चाहिए कि उसकी फैमिली मेडिकल के लिए उसको 24 घंटे के अंदर वीजा मिलके उनको भेज देना चाहिए. और हमने भी बाकी देशों के लिए ये करना चाहिए. सिर्फ ऐसा नहीं कि भारत के बच्चों या सिटीजन्स के लिए हो. हमारे भी देश में बहुत सारे विदेश से लोग आते हैं, रहते हैं. उनको जो पढ़ाई के लिए बच्चे आते हैं, कोई नौकरी के लिए आते हैं, उनके लिए भी ये प्रावधान हम सब ने करना चाहिए. एक ग्लोबल मूवमेंट हम सब ने करना है कि किसी की देश में हो, बच्चा किसी का बच्चा होता है, क्या फैमिली मेंबर होता है. ये जो आज हमारी बच्ची के साथ हो रहा है वो किसी के साथ भी ना हो. इसलिए हम सबको अगली ताकत से इससे सीख लेना है हमसे.
And overall, Supriya, the number of students in United States, Indian students in public colleges, universities is very, very high. And it's heartbreaking that a father has to, has to go through this entire traumatic process to just go and see the daughter.
No, I think it's very, very unfortunate what has happened to her. I mean, It's too painful to deal with it. He has just lost his wife a year ago. His daughter is fighting for her life as we talk. So he is in an extraordinarily difficult situation. But I think the only thing we can be is show compassion, be with him, stand by him, and make sure he travels to America immediately, spends time with his daughter, and let's pray hard and have faith in the doctors in America कि हमारी बच्ची ठीक हो जाए. और मेरा विश्वास है कि जो डॉक्टर्स उसका ख्याल अमेरिका में रख रहे हैं, जल्द से जल्द हमारी बच्ची ठीक हो जाए और उसके पिताजी के साथ एक अच्छा फोटो हमें अमेरिका से भेजें.
जी, हम सब यही उम्मीद कर रहे हैं. तानाजी शिंदे जी, अभी आप लगता है रास्ते में हैं मुंबई के.
हाँ, तो रास्ते में
जी, और आपने वक्त निकाला हम लोगों से बात करने के लिए, तो ये बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है हमें. लेकिन थोड़ा सा सुकून मिल रहा है कि फाइनली इंटरव्यू कल होगा और जल्दी से जल्दी वीजा मिलेगा और आप फिर जा सकेंगे.
हो जा सकेंगे.
तानाजी भाऊ, काळजी करू नका, आपल्याला विजा लवकर मिळणार आणि आपण जाणार लेकीकडे. तानाजी भाऊ, बिल्कुल आप चिंता ना करें, हम सब इस देश आपके साथ है पूरा.
धन्यवाद 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 ताई त्यासाठी खूप जास्त.
All right, Supriya Sule and Tanaji Shinde and Sanjay Kadam, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Maria, for your efforts and NDTV's efforts. I compliment NDTV for joining this. Thank you very much. I appreciate all the efforts by the entire media as well. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Let's bring in other guests now. Virendra Gupta is former ambassador. Dr. Bharat Barai is chairman of US-India Community Foundation. Sudhanshu Kaushik is executive director of North American Association of Indian Students. Dr. Tara Karta is former director, National Security Council Secretariat. We also have Durya Dhinojwala, immigration law expert. Sudhanshu Kaushik, as someone who is dealing with students, interacting with students, what can you tell us about Nilam Shinde and her present condition?
Hi, Maria. Look, this is obviously a saddening situation that shouldn't have happened, but is happening. And situations like these are getting more frequent. It seems like every 2 months I'm on either your show or on NDTV talking about a student being impacted, their lives being in danger, whether it's an accident, a hit or run case, or some student or young professional is a victim of a hate crime in the United States. The issues still remain the same, Maria. If it wasn't for people like you and the media who have taken this case up, who have put the pressure on the government on the Indian side as well as the US side, the reality is it's been 14 days since we knew about this incident, 14 days since she's been in the hospital, 14 days since she's been in the coma, and yet only after your intervention have they been able to get a visa appointment, which hopefully will send them to the States. There needs to be a better process. If at one side we try to agree and brag about the amount of Indian students studying in the United States, and colleges and administration's entire economy is based off getting Indian students to come to the United States, why shouldn't there be a process of helping alleviate these concerns in a faster and more timely manner? There's no excuse. The world's largest democracy and one of the most developed countries in the world, it shouldn't be taking 14 people in a coma after a hit and run case. And I'm kind of frustrated to say that I wish that Nilam was not part of the norm. This is happening all the time.
Yes, and Virendra Gupta, what kind of support does Indian missions in councils in America provide to students like Nilam?
Well, it is first of all very distressing that after 12, 13 days, the parents have not been able to travel and the student is left by herself. Because this is most remarkable situation I have not come across. In fact, in our diplomatic service, I've come across many instances where we have gone out of our way. We've opened the embassy in the middle of the night to give visa to people who needed to travel on medical emergencies. Indian nationals or even foreign nationals in those countries. So I think there has to be a humanitarian side to it. What seems to me is either that the Americans are so insensitive, which I doubt very much, or that the messages were not reaching there. You mentioned about the consulate, our mission. I think the first point of contact should have been our consulate, our embassy. And if the embassy had gotten to know that there was an Indian student in coma and that her family needed to travel, they would have certainly moved heaven and earth and they would have connected with the American establishment. And this is a very simple thing. I mean, nobody is denying it. The point is that probably the right approaches were not made and were made only after NDTV launched a campaign and Supriya ji got into the act. It should not have happened like that. In the normal course, if a student is in trouble, there should be mechanism to help them deal with these. This is very basic humanitarian assistance that can be provided.
Yes, and in terms of, here is a student who has undergone a brain surgery in US and she is in a state of coma. It's extremely disturbing, one would say, Dr. Tarakartha. And if you look at and speak to the parents, you realize the trauma that they are going through. I mean, the father who has just lost his wife a year ago. So she is the only surviving member of the family. You know, I'm actually short of words here to think the pain that they would be undergoing, and it has taken them, and the visa date that was being given by the US Embassy was 2026. I mean, if there is anything more heartless, it is this.
Maria, first and foremost, once again, I would say, I mean, congratulations to NDTV for raising this. I see the emotion in your voice. Looking at that man, the father, it was terrible. I mean, and hats off to Miss Supriya Sule. My opinion of politicians has gone up at least 10 notches. I was reminded of Sushma Swaraj, how much she went out of her way to help, if you remember. But, on paper now, the facts as they are, is that even India doesn't, on paper, provide any emergency assistance to non-Indian citizens. There is no provision. It's a different issue that, as the ambassador just said, you will try and, we have a very strong human side. You will pull out the forms and doors and do everything you can to get people through because that's how we operate as a country. In this instance, okay, the US bureaucracy is terrible. It's really bad. But in this instance, I would also agree that there was probably some lack of communication somewhere. Otherwise, mostly this doesn't happen. The US does have unlike us, does have a provision for emergency visas, but only thing it's slot based. It can come next year, like you said. But overall, Maria, what I really feel terrible about, if you watch the news, is the complete disregard for human life, which you see across the board nowadays. Yes. Nobody cares. People are dying in Gaza. Who cares? So somewhere here, we want to take this thing that you've done, NDTV has done, take it forward. I wish the MEA and everybody gets into the act and makes it a standard part of the protocols that a child who is sick should get immediate visa, whatever her nationality, even if you may be, whatever the state between the two countries, even if you're at war with the other countries, a child in distress should be given immediate aid, and this should be put up at the UN for the appropriate protocols.
Yes. Dr. Bharat Barai, the family is on its way to Mumbai for the visa interview, which is scheduled for 9 a.m. They have been attempting to book slots for visa at the passport office, and the next available slot was for 2026. What I feel is that, especially for parents of children who are studying in America, there should be an extra provision. As a prominent Indian American, sir, do you think the Trump administration has to be sensitized regarding this?
Maria, I want to compliment you, NDTV, as well as Supriya Sule for taking up this issue. However, let me tell you, I have been involved in many such cases in Chicago area, whether it is a shooting, whether it's a drowning or serious injury similar to Nilam Shinde. The thing is, as soon as the consulate, Indian consulate becomes available, they are very proactive. They find out the contact information in India and they contact MEA, and MEA immediately contacts the US Embassy. And most of the time they get visa within 2 to 3 days. In this case, unfortunately, even the father knew it 2 days later, and then somebody had to let the consulate know. And that is where our role comes as community activists. When we come to know, we contact the consulate. Consulate contacts MEA, and as I said, usually we have been able to secure the visas for the nearest relatives within 2 to 3 days. So what happened is very unfortunate. I think this case may highlight the situation where there may be a more formal way, since there are large number of Indian students as well as nationals living in USA. So I think this will bring up the issue of trying to prioritize and put some standby mechanism in action.
The number of Indian graduates actually rose by 63% to 1,65,936 students this year. In fact, there is another statistics, and that would be the right picture. As of 2024, there were over 331,000 Indian students studying in United States. That's a record number. They deserve extra care. And that extra care has to be extended to even their family members if they want to travel to meet their children. I think there has to be processes which have to be put in place, Dr. Barai. It cannot be that Indians, are contributing so much to America and they are given dates of this nature that, the father of Nilam Shinde was given a date of 2026. I mean, how insensitive can it be? There has to be an extra category. There has to be something that has to show that the US government is also sensitive. The US embassy is being sensitive about this case.
I agree with you that there has to be a lot of sensitivity and sympathy. And most of the time, the community leaders are able to take care of it in conjunction with the respective consulate. It's too much what has happened here. The second point I want to bring out is Nilima will get the best possible care. As a physician in USA and the medical director, the law in USA is any hospital has to provide emergency care to any human being, irrespective of their status or insurance. So once Nilima is taken to the hospital, she will receive the same care as anybody else who is a US citizen that will get. So let the parents and your viewers be rest assured that she will get the best possible medical care. Unfortunately, her injuries are pretty serious, and we pray that she recovers from her injuries.
At the earliest, and she's able to meet her father in her senses. We certainly hope that. But Durya, the provisions which are there of emergency US visa, and we have put that in the form of a graphics, it clearly says that that's a priority visa which has to be given. So expedited appointment slots are limited, but it is given. And in this particular case, only when it became like a campaign and member of parliament raising it, a government being completely involved in this, that's when we saw things move. Ms. Dinojwala.
Yes, my sympathies first to the Shinde family and NDTV for raising this very important issue that was flagged in this case. So there are actually steps that you can take to do the emergency visa. As you have pointed out, it is a tourist visa. So as far as immigration law is concerned, it's a B1, B2 tourist visa that the application has to be made first. And then you have to select an interview slot, which in this case, as you saw, was not available for almost 12 months. But then the process is, so there is no process in place. If there is an emergency at that first level, in the visa process. There is no process to expedite the visa interview when you do the application. But then you can go back. So what people tell us to do is go ahead, take the interview slot, which is 12 months ahead of time, and then you go back to the system. The system does have kind of a provision where it is called a request to expedite the visa for emergency cases. And in this case, it would have been the medical emergency, where you have to then go upload the medical documents to the system, to the US visa embassy in Mumbai, for example. And then the interview slot would have been moved from that 12 months to this expedited emergency slot. So the problem with this whole system is that, right, you have to first go take a normal slot, and there is no provision for somebody in this case to have gone and done a medical emergency immediate slot. So I think this case really flags the issues which are very important. As you pointed out, there are so many F1 visa students in this country. There has to be a mechanism when something happens to them. How do we keep them safe, right?
Yeah.
How do we make sure that the parents, like I have a daughter, I can imagine what the parents are feeling not being able to come to the United States, be with that daughter when she's in a coma, be there to sign off on the paperwork, to know what.
Yes. Okay, let me bring in Sudhanshu again. Sudhanshu, I'm looking at these numbers, and these are huge numbers. I mean, over 3.3 lakh Indian students, and India has surpassed China as the leading source of international students in the US. That is the number. And organizations such as yours, when it is about collaborations, ensuring that you are in touch with Indian students in various parts of United States, have you faced so many of these cases? Would you say that increasingly Indians are at the receiving end in some way or the other? There was only recently another case, but of course in a different context altogether.
Absolutely, Maria. I mean, I'm on your show or an NDTV show every 2 months, it seems like I said in the beginning. And some more numbers, Maria, just for context. It's expected that the international Indian demographic in the United States will grow to 5 lakhs or 500,000 per year on an F1 H1B visa. On top of that, there's over 1.2 million Indian students that study abroad in any given year. And that's not my number, that's the MEA number. I know a lot of people have said many different things. There needs to be a process. The process is quite simple. Create a different cell within the MEA side, which then directly speaks to counterparts in different countries, the top 10 countries where there is a intake of students, international students abroad. So Canada, the United States, the UK, Australia, UAE, etc. The process can be substantially easier. Maria, the biggest, I think, commonality that I understand from all this is, again, the lack of communication and the frustration of the bureaucracy that exists at such a pivotal time. I mean, the Shindes are not thinking about anything else other than just trying to attempt to hopefully see her, be with her in what could be potentially some critical times and last moments. I hope that doesn't turn out to be the case. But then it also happens when it comes to unfortunately, the cases where things don't turn out to be the best. Bodies of previous students or young professionals, et cetera, that need to be sent back are kept in the morgue for months on end. This is an issue that we've seen over and over again, and it can't always be that NDTV or some media will always be there to raise it. It should be part of it if we're sending students abroad, right? And I think that that's a standard expectation that you and I and everyone else has. And I hope that not just the MEA, but also different countries that are receiving and are so enthusiastic about receiving Indian students and their tuition money will think about and be forefront of creating a structure that says that, hey, we'll take care of you, even at the times of needs. Right now, we haven't had a statement other than obviously the hospital and the university giving those attestations to be able to ease the process. But beyond that, where's the accountability? It's community leaders and it's the media within India that's taking it up, no one else.
Okay, okay. So let me bring in others now. Virendra Gupta.
Yes.
Your thoughts, sir? I mean, reports of Indian students, particularly at the receiving end, is going up.
Well, I wouldn't say this is all coincidental. I don't think Indians are being targeted as such, but Indians are very large in number, so they can get into problems. And I think the important thing is that there should be institutionalized mechanism to provide help on a timely basis. Now, there is all good intention. The point is that if the MEA gets to know about it, uh, I know during Sushma ji's time there was a lot of willingness to help, but I think there is willingness to help all around, even the current foreign minister and the ministry establishment, and our embassies and consulates. So I think our embassies and consulates have email addresses where messages of this kind can be sent. And I'm sure if a message is sent, people are sensitive enough to scan those messages, and immediately they would have contacted somebody and tried to create a help arrangement. MEA also has similar arrangements. So I think what is important, however, is to strengthen those mechanisms and create awareness about, there could be people in distress, there could be anybody in difficulty. I don't think that American establishment is very insensitive. Yes, they are very difficult in providing visas. They give you a date for 1 year, but that is in the normal case. If there is medical emergency, I think there is a universal agreement that people will go out of their way to provide for the humanitarian assistance.
Yes. Dr. Bharat Barai?
Yeah.
No, we are
Hello,
standing
Maria.
up for Nilam Shinde. All of us are concerned about her. We are concerned about the family. We hope that the father reaches California soonest to meet his daughter. But the larger question is that this is one campaign that we are leading, sir. There could be many unfortunate parents. What do they do?
Well, Maria, as I told you before, I have come across many such situations in
That's right.
Chicago in last 30, 40 years. And each time the Indian American community has always come to the help, either raising the money, sometimes paying for the ticket of the parents because they don't have the money to travel to USA, then helping them stay there while they have come to see their daughter or son. And in some unfortunate cases where a person has passed, then also help raise the money so that their bodies can be sent back. So here, there has not been sort of good communication between the consulate, whosoever the friends were, the Indian American community. I tell you, many times we have had situation, once we provide the contact information, the US consulate calls them, the parents, and says, please come and take the visa. So yes, under normal circumstances, USA does have more bureaucracy, but in this case of type cases, our experience is that once you provide the information to the consulate, the MEA, they contact, and the US consulate or the embassy calls the parents or the nearest one, say, please come and take the visa. So this 14 days is a very unfortunate situation, which most of the time does not happen and should not happen.
Yes, absolutely, sir. Dr. Tarakarta, I'll give you the last word. It's tragic situation. The family may get some relief, but it's agonizing weight that they have gone through.
See, you can't really say, I disagree a bit with what the earlier person said. MEA by itself, there's a limited action that it can do because it's the laws of the other country that you're dealing with, right? And that's the bureaucracy of the other country. That's why I said you need to have some kind of an international, you have protocols for how you deal with diplomats, right? You have protocols for most things. You need to change that in extremes. Like you have, for example, I'll tell you this is an unlikely analogy, but in terms of, say, bombings, you have an international coalition because it's to everybody's interest to get that protocol across. This is also in everybody's interest. Tomorrow it could be a US child or a person who's here, who needs help, right? So this going through bureaucracy, having a campaign, there is a limited amount of what a US embassy official can do because the paperwork is so intense. Although in this case, you're right, Maria, I'm surprised that the hospital has also reached out and said, look, yeah, this is the case, and still nothing happened. I don't know. I don't want to sort of go beyond a point because we don't really know how the paperwork went. But this is not, you can't just do this bilaterally. It'll work now. Now it worked. I'm so glad. But in such cases, as you mentioned, there's so many.
Yes, and the travel permits for emergency visas are normally given quickly. And it is unclear why delay happened in this particular case, Mr. Virendra Gupta.
Well, I don't know whether the application was made. Normally application you made and then the date is given. I don't know when did they start applying for so I don't want to comment on it because I don't really know. The point is, as all your panelists have said, that there is the right intent, but one has to communicate and one must acknowledge the role of the Indian community associations. Even now I was reading somewhere that until the parents arrive, the Indian community associations are offered all kinds of help and to intercede with the hospital authorities and make sure that the best medical care is available. Our Indian associations are doing so well to provide the help and to provide connectivity. As was pointed out, if they got to know, they would have immediately gotten in touch with the consulate. Consulate would have gotten in touch with the American embassy or American government. And within a day or two, the visa should have been given. It's very distressing. I don't know what has happened which has caused this much. This is extraordinarily unacceptable delay. 12, 13 days. And the child is lying in coma and the parents are ruminating here. This is very distressing, very, very distressing. And I think totally without any precedence. It should not have happened. It should not happen.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. And Dr. Bharat Barai, thank you for all the support that is being extended by, Indian Americans such as you. Dr. Tara Karta, thank you for sharing your thoughts. Durya, thank you. And thank you, Sudhanshu Kaushik, for joining us. A quick break, and then we return.